Now, the idea that a small group of people should determine the future for the masses has always been there, especially in this country. Using that same logic, what is to stop the person with the highest IQ from saying that he has a God given right or a scientific right to make all the determinations for everyone? And let's say that a committee of 300 should consist of one person who determines the course of the future and 299 people that are just there to communicate his orders. Because a train of thought or a concept is not true unless you can follow that train of thought to its finish. So why shouldn't he be the matchmaker or set the criteria for reproduction and dating and marriage? It's just as ridiculous as what we have going on right now. So when society abandons Christianity, as you see, the most important question we will be forced to ask ourselves is, what scale of morality shall we use? And of course, the moral relativists are going to answer that question for us. A small group of people making decisions for all of us. And that is what we have right now, in more ways than one. Many of you will automatically think about, well, big business owns both parties, and the rich investors and CEOs make the decisions for all of us. But it's worse than that. Democracy in America is an illusion. It's a fake democracy. For example, when the CIA runs psyops, and when they take polls and they do studies, big pharma studies, economic studies, racial studies, sociological studies, more often than not, they falsify, they fabricate, and these are biased studies, and the people who are doing them have ulterior motives. Now, once you consider that, and you consider that the CIA currently has 3 major psyops they're running. The Flat Earth psyop, designed to play out Christians. The gang stalking psyop, where they say that, it's aliens or demons or, it's something not believable. Okay, and they get people who come off as weird to be disinformation agents, okay, to make it seem like gang stalking isn't real and that you're crazy if you talk about conspiracy theory or gang stalking. So the second one is the conspiracy theory disinformation movement and the gang stalking disinformation movement, misinformation, misdirection. The third one is the false flag movement. Okay, not every shooting is faked. Maybe 1 or 2 are. Maybe. These are bloodthirsty maniacs who like doing traumatic things. It gives them a rush to cause death and get away with it. What they're covering up and not covering is the government's role, the role of mind control and mind control substances, how much they provoke these people, and how their greater or extended network has provoked these people because they were selected, they were targeted. They said, this person comes off as weird, he comes off as mentally ill, whether he is or not, and he has a certain potential for violence. So we're going to recruit, even our children in high school, because some of these people in gangs and witchcraft groups and so on are in high school. We're going to get them to provoke these people. Some of these white supremacists are in high school. Okay? We're going to get them to provoke these people until they do a shooting. And we're going to hit them with the social norms. Because when social norms are unfair and they're being enforced on you, it makes you want to lash out on society. Okay? And psychologists understand this very well. So what you see is these psyops are not there to fool the majority of the people. That's not the reason. Like many of you, at one point I thought that was the reason. But it does not make sense because it's not well thought out enough to be for that purpose. The purpose of misinformation and playing people out is to make it so that people with legitimate power can say, I'm not going to take him seriously because people who talk about that talk about aliens, reptilians, and evil spirits. You know, this is a country of science, fabricated science, pseudoscience, the philosophy of science, things related to science that are not necessarily accurate, that are more often than not inaccurate and inhumane. The purpose of misinformation is so that people with legitimate power and their extended network can discard what people who are telling the truth are saying. Period. Whether they want to discard Christian morality or the truth behind staged events. You know, when I mean staged, I mean the murders actually took place, but everything was calculated. You know, it's a psyop. It's, you know, they planned it out. It wasn't just a random event. Now, they then proceed to have actors, whether they're professional actors, excuse me, or people putting on an act to go on TV, including one person who takes the view of the conspiracy theorist, for instance. And it will go something like this. Excuse me, sir, do you believe this shooting was a hoax? Of course not. People who say that have tinfoil hats, you know, and then a bunch of normal people take the view that is favorable to the government. You know, the view that the government wants them to take, the desired view. And then they'll have one person who looks crazy take the view that is true, that the government doesn't want people to adopt. But remember, the main purpose, the primary goal isn't to convince the masses. It is just to make it so that the court system, the psychiatrists, the politicians, the people with legitimate power in positions of social control have an excuse to not act on the testimonies of the victims. You understand this? Everything else is just a show. You know, actors on TV, I mean, they might even take a poll that is phony. Yeah, 80% of people, you know, think conspiracy theorists should be on drugs, right? That poll might be completely made up. You know? It might be the other way around. It might be 80% of people believe that there's a great conspiracy. That might even be the fact. They're not interested in what the majority thinks, as long as they do not have the power to get together and do anything about it. It doesn't matter if every single American who's not in their network wants to overthrow the government, as long as they can't. That is how it works. It's the same way it works in psych wards, right? Most people in psych wards don't want to be there, but they're not going to get together and, you know, jump the guards or something, you know, and jump the shrink and take the keys and escape. Because there's powerful psychological and social factors keeping them there. Same thing in prison a lot of times. If all the prisoners got together, they could probably manage to escape or do an Attica uprising or something, you know? As long as they have things in a way where they're in charge and they have a quote-unquote reasonable reason to make the decisions they make, they don't care about public opinion. Yeah, I forgot to mention this. Now, when it comes to women, they know women are going to chase the money. So there is an element of control the philosophies in society and what is socially normative. The majority of people might say, you know what? I don't agree with this materialistic society. A lot of gold diggers. I met a lot of materialistic people who call gold diggers, but they're still going along with the social norms. These people aren't just setting the policy in a way that you are trained to follow, whether you agree or not, whether the masses agree or not. They also set the philosophies and the social norms in the same way. I think most of us understand that people like me are more respectable than rich people or politicians or celebrities. But yet we behave in a way, myself excluded, we behave in a way, or society in general behaves in a way that makes it seem like these celebrities and politicians and so on and so forth are more respectable. You see how that works? It doesn't matter what you think to them, what the majority thinks. It matters what the majority does. So actions do not just speak louder than words. They speak louder than thoughts. You get my drift? This is how it is. So people are being stupid while they're playing stupid. And at the end of the day, just like Masons say, we will all be subordinated by the wisest and the best, quote unquote. So when it comes to philosophy, it will be the most respected Masonic philosophers that determine the philosophies in society. And this is going to cause the downfall of humanity. Fabricated science, false science, pseudoscience, misrepresented scientific studies, biased scientific studies, and the philosophies that are propagated by the shills of the elite. These are the things that are going to be the downfall of humanity. So this one is January 29th. This is a month and 9 days after my top martial artist challenge. This is why they chose to cheat. This is why the covert drugging and the psych meds. This is why they did everything they could to slow me down and cheat me out of my rightful place in society.
Is January 29, 2014, before I'm being drugged.
Let's go. Shoot my fans.
I actually go to
If you want to make it up to me, admit that this is sophisticated. Look at the 1Xs. Admit that it's a sophisticated cyber attack. Yes, it is like that.